Good afternoon, Ohio, and whoever else is joining us today. This is Coach Jules with Be Well Fitness, and today I have a special guest, a transformational coach, Rebecca Victor. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Jules. I'm excited about being here with you.
Yes. How about you can tell us a few sentences what a transformational coach does and what you love to do, how
Okay.
you love to transform.
Well, a transformational coach, as far as my perspective of it, is someone that works alongside their client and allows their client to really discover what it is that they're seeking to do for themselves. You know, what is it that they're unhappy with? What do they want to do, become? And then they spend time making that journey, you know, looking at our mindset, looking at our actions, and looking at just simple ways that we can modify to transform and create a different experience for ourselves.
Yes, and don't we want that all? And sometimes when we are in our own heads, it's just too close. We need somebody else to help us to look from far behind. But yeah, so if you're joining us live, you can say hello. We are using Streamyard. Just give Streamyard the permission to use your comments and use your name publicly. And you can write any comments you'd like. And if you will be watching this recorded, feel free to write your comments and questions. So we will be checking them later. So yes, we all need that little bit of transformation. And I love your company's name. This is the Joyful Path.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you came up with that word?
Well, actually, you know, it's fun to I just threw a bunch of different words that I really like together, and I just created a whole list. And then as I spent some time looking at the list, I had to walk away, I had to do other things, came back. And it was something that came out after a little bit of time, but coming up with it just felt good. Yeah. When I saw it, I said, this feels right. This is the right word, right designation that I want to use for what it is I do. Because I do believe that if I'm going to walk a path, or I'm going to help anybody walk a path, then I'd rather help someone walk a joyful one. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I love the path that just tells us that it's not a 30-day to success, or it's not 60 days to whatever, lose weight, or 90 days to get better. So it is a path, because there is always a journey. And that's how I use an analogy of traveling. So it's a map. Let's create these different maps. And this is just check-in points where we are on our path, second, and then see where we are on the map and where we want to go. So that's why I love everything to do with that kind of traveling exploration.
Yeah, it is. I love how you're talking about the map, because I even think too, Jules, for myself, it's like when I'm in a car, I can move pretty lickety-split through that. And I don't really see the country. I don't see much except for needing to make sure I'm on the road, staying on the road, not endangering anybody else or being endangered. So that's kind of like my focus. And I might look out and glance here and there, but when I start to ride a bike versus my car, then I begin to slow down and I start to see more. And then I begin to appreciate the depth of what's there. And finally, when I walk, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I get to pause and I get to look at the magnificence. I mean, I'm looking out my window now. That's because there's these, green and lush. And I feel like that's kind of what the journey is. And we think that it's moving quickly through it, but then we don't appreciate the things that we get to discover about ourselves. And some of these discoveries are not ones that are like right out there in your face. They're real subtle. And yet when we discover them and we become aware of them, it's like, wow, this is really cool. I like this about me. But so it is a process for me. At least it is for me. I don't know about anybody else. So.
Yes, exactly. And just like you described, so we use different vehicles, like the bike and the car and walking. And all of us and all of that gives us different experiences, and also allows us to adjust the speed. Because sometimes, yes, we need to slow down to speed up.
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we need to get out there and notice just to experience something else.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in my experience working with clients, I always teach them a map of body awareness.
Right.
Because if you don't know where you are, how do you even apply all these movements or all the strength training we're doing to what your body needs?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be going through motion. It's kind of like driving the car and just noticing the same things that you don't really notice the same thing.
That's right. That's right.
So,
And
yeah.
I love that you do that. I love that you ask people to pause and note where they are, because that's the only place. That's where we start, right?
Exactly.
Where are we? And that means, and it's okay to be right there. That's what I really like, is that it's okay. I know when you do your work, it's okay that you're there,
Yes.
because then we have the beginning point. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's a very important point on the map. You are here. We always look for that. But sometimes, again, when we are so in our own heads, we kind of need that outside perspective, like a transformational coach who can help us figure it out. Are you really there? And how many maps do you need to create to get where you actually want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I know working with women over 50 and being kind of in that age, we kind of stop dreaming.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of in the motion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and when you stop and ask, well, what is your deep why? I don't know. So this is where we need a navigator. Mm-hmm. So that's why I thought you will be a great addition to our Be Well Fitness community and help us get on our path. Well, we are on a path. It's just that staying consistent on the path of wellness is where everybody struggles. And just like I tell people, well, motivation is where you start. Discipline, but consistency is where you succeed. So, and I know just the person who can help us perhaps come up with mindset systems or maybe some little tips that help us enjoy these different speeds of our journey, right? Because we all have those stop signs and detours and traffic and whatever. So how can we get through it and still come as a success on our journey of getting more fit, stronger, more able, more functional, just feeling good in our body? Yeah. Where would you like to start with that big concept?
Well, you had so many wonderful pieces in there, Jules. And I think probably for me is, when you talked about that dream, is that, that's the realization that we think because we've hit a certain age that it's downhill, or why apply much, or there's no one that's been there that says, wow, look over this hill here, because this is pretty cool. Instead, it's, oh my God, look at over this hill. Life sucks. Whoa, what's happening? Down you go. And all of a sudden, it's like, who wants to dream in that energy? So it's realizing that there's more to who we are and more of what's possible for us than what we've been taught. The science is discovering it. People who work in the spiritual domain discover it. People who are working with mindset, understand that there's truly more about us. And the wonderful part about this time, especially this past year, as people have gone inward, there's kind of like a greater awareness that there's something else here. And that something else, as we begin to learn about it, is really going to start to introduce us to more of who we are. And that there is so much more for us than the ideas that we grew up with. When you hit a certain age, your body has to do this. That's a falsehood. I mean, people believe in it, and the power of our thought is powerful enough that if we believe in it and hold on to it, we'll experience it. So the gift, at least for me, is number one in this whole process of discovery, is I have to be ever so compassionate, respectful, and gentle to myself. Now, being compassionate, respectful, and gentle doesn't mean I'm not going to do my work. Doesn't mean I'm not going to step out and do things that make me nervous, or, oh my gosh, I've got to step out in big ways. It just means that I show myself a level of respect. And when I started, I remember one of my teachers, I was listening to what he was saying, and he said, if people could just pause long enough to just get quiet and let themselves be loved, just welcome love, the world we would experience would change vastly. And I thought, well, that's a really nice statement. But it sounded good, but it really had no in me. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and try it. And I remember it was just the right spot. And I sat and I just got quiet and I began to just open to letting myself be loved rather than having to prove myself, having to step up and do this, but just letting myself be loved, be appreciated, be validated, be recognized as something of value, something of beauty, of something that's really cool. And when I did that, it was amazing the sense of joy that I felt, and amazing too, then the willingness to get up and do something was, because it wasn't coming out of this need to beat myself over the back because I've not accomplished it or I'm not doing it or whatever, as much as how can I show myself respect and compassion. And then pay attention, because sometimes we think we need to do something and we've not done it and we've failed, but sometimes there's a reason. And we don't often know that right at that time. But if we can offer ourselves compassion and respect, and then it'll start to reveal itself. We'll start to, as we turn within, we'll start to go, oh, that's why I couldn't. That's what was going on. And I think when I do that, I know that when I'm making my decision to take care of myself, to take care of my body, it is so much easier to honor my body when I love me. It really is. And so that's part of probably one of the first things.
Exactly. When you love yourself or somebody or something, you suddenly take care of that love. Mm-hmm. You suddenly find time, you suddenly find the right thoughts or whatever you need because it makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the lacking things that we all have. Like it's been my journey for years and it's still a journey, but what came in mind when you were talking about self-compassion, it's huge because I'm a recovering perfectionist and type A.
I love it.
And whoever is like that, they can relate because I was just like so strict. Like I would be early for my appointments and I would just have so much responsibility on me and I would demand the same from other people. And if they come, 5 minutes late, I am like on fire already. What's going on? Type A, there is no time. We're going. So then I decided that just wasn't working out for me. And I started to kind of looking for that joyful path. Yeah. And I started to, just like you said, sort of pausing a little. And I started to exploring a sense of self-compassion. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm compassionate to myself when I am running late for appointments or when I am not having those standards, then I have the same compassion for others. Mm-hmm. And then kind of like magic happens. You know how people, I noticed that like they make up stories to justify their being late. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when I was in that self-compassion state, I would just like wait for somebody at Panera Bread and they will come and they'll just like, oh, I'm sorry. And they start telling me the story. And I'll just say, just pause here for a moment. And I tell them, thank you for this wonderful time, for you being late. I just caught up on this book or I caught up on this email. I was just observing people around at Panera Bread. That was kind of pretty cool. And they would just like stumble over. It's like, what?
And how cool it is that you took charge of the situation versus the situation taking charge of you. Instead of the external being the decision factor, you were the decision maker that says, this person's late and you know what, I'm going to read a book, it's all okay. Yeah. And I think that's the key. It's, we are in charge. And, that simple gift that we give ourselves by loving and knowing that we are in charge and we are responsible, then we have the ability to do what you just did, make that decision to say, well, this is perfect time for me to do XYZ, and I wouldn't have had time before.
Yes. Well, and what happened to me, obviously, I was benefiting from it the most because having that type A personality, I was just putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I would be out of breath and my heart will be pounding. And then here, choosing the other way and choosing my being in charge, it just took all that pressure off me.
Right.
And feeling and acting with compassion was kind of like a cool thing. It's like, oh, here we go. And I just gave that power to that person. It's like, I don't need your stories. You don't have to make anything up.
Yeah, don't need it. I'm good. Things happen,
So, and that was just a relief. And then I thought, that's pretty cool. Like, not to be so like a perfectionist and type A. Kind of like explore that other path of joyful path, really. So, and that was kind of like my sort of a first beginning of self-compassion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a journey. It's a journey.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I hear also kind of people use that sort of a case scenario, like with our fitness and wellness work. And that comes out, okay, on Monday, I'm going to start this plan. Oh, shoot, all of these things happen on Monday. I'm going to start the next Monday. No. We have Tuesday. We have Wednesday. You don't have to wait till Monday. So how can we break it down?
Right.
And now I just kind of started to explore this other concept of self-love. Like when things like this happen, you just say, well, I love myself anyway.
That's right.
I am here.
That's right. Dun,
I didn't start on Monday, but I'm okay to start on Tuesday, even if I do 5 minutes towards that direction.
Yeah. Well, and I love that idea of even 5 minutes, because I think I know for myself, it's almost like akin to putting Christmas decorations up or doing something. I've had this mindset, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all at once and get it all done. It's like house cleaning, or if it's like doing my Christmas decorations or anything. And then my husband's like, well, why don't we just do a little at a time? I'm like, a little at a time? Yeah. But I have found that to be a really helpful way of doing something. That little at a time, and it's compassionate, because it's like, I just don't have time to sit and have a full swath of time available to clean like I have, doing what I'm doing right now. And it's and the same with like the food and the body. I mean, because of the process of love, self-love, it's pausing and looking at my body and saying, I love you. You're my body. I experienced this life because of you, through you. I get to touch the ones I love. I get to smell beautiful smells. I get to taste awesome things because of you. I get to appreciate the beauty of colors because of my body. And so I think another thing is what am I saying to myself?
Exactly.
How am I speaking? And and then becoming aware of that and say, how would I like to change what I just said to me to something that would feel better? Instead of, punishing myself or judging myself because maybe I said some awful things, and I have been known to say awful things to myself. Instead of beating myself up over that, it's like, okay, that, that me at that time was coming from a place that didn't serve me. How do I want to speak to me today? How would I like to reframe that? And I tell you, it kind of lets me off the hook and lets me love myself. And then I'm more willing to want to go and take a look at what I could eat that's going to really nurture me, or what kind of activity I can do, not out of guilt and not out of somebody shooting me or somebody, well, you need to do that. And this is where the program goes and It's like, well, I guess it's not happening for me. So what can I do that, even if it's a little thing like you talked about, 5 minutes. Yay, it's 5 minutes I did that I wouldn't have done.
Exactly. Just like you said before, just pause and notice your self-language. That's why in my Activate You coaching program, so this is a part of our program. So yes, we work on rebuilding our foundational core strength, but we also work on reframing our mindset as we are enjoying our journey, because just noticing the self-language is huge. And then just learning to reframe it again, like know where you are. know what you're saying to yourself, and how can you reframe it so that it works for you. So because we do spend the same amount of energy to hate ourselves and to love ourselves, why not choose the later?
That's right. That's right. It feels so much better.
Exactly.
It really
And
does.
you feel more empowered, you feel more joyful, you
Right.
feel more like you enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay if you don't have 1 hour or 30 minutes to finish your plan, but maybe 5 minutes. Yes, just doing something. Even like looking in the window and dreaming, walking, if you don't have the time to walk.
Yeah, I mean, looking out and saying, "Oh," and even feeling it, because there were some really interesting studies that were done years ago about the use of imagination for athletes. Do you remember that, where they were doing basketball players and they were talking about people who had practiced and people who didn't?
Yes.
And then the ones who did not physically practice did so with their minds.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, oh, what would it feel like just to imagine myself walking around this block? That would feel really cool, rather than going, you should be walking around the block. What do you think you can't do? I mean, it's really amazing where my mind can go, my little voice. It's like, dang, you are just really good at hammering me, aren't you?
Exactly.
And this, it feels like this little voice. And it's like, okay, for whatever reason, it's all right. Let me love my little voice and let me decide what I can do in this moment, that when I do it feels better.
Yes, and honor your decision. That's it. Decide and honor your decision.
That's right.
To your joyful path of wellness and having that active life you want to live at whatever age. And yes, age is age, but we can still control some things.
Well, I think we can control a lot more than people realize. There's tremendous information out there that's really helping us to understand truly how much power the mind that we have has, especially when it's tapped into with our feelings, our emotions, and how that does impact our bodies. Like the simple act, like you talk about, communicating with our bodies, honoring, loving, and respecting them, using language that befits the magnificence of this vehicle we rest in, that we're, that is ours. And so it's such a different journey where I'm at now as a result of the work that I've done over the years, and the support that I've gotten from other coaches who have, because, if I'm coaching, I'm going to go to a coach. So I'm working with coaches always so that I can expand my own horizon, expand and evolve, and to become and to experience the things that feel exciting to me. And
yes, you come from the experiencing, not just knowledge. And we have a wonderful comment from Mary, and she's one of my Activate You participants. And she says, I've used the do it for 5 or 10 minutes plan for a long time. I give myself permission to stop after that if I'm not into it, but I usually am. Yes, exactly. Mary, thank you for sharing. It's the starting point. Just like since COVID time, I've been consistently walking in the mornings, no matter what the weather is. And sometimes I don't feel like walking, but I know how it makes me feel. So I just get up and do it again. And then I come back and it's like, yeah, that was good. I'm glad I did it.
I noticed that. I'm glad I did it. I always think of that. I think, how am I going to feel when I'm done? Okay, let me get started, And I figured, well, once I get outside, if I decide not, then I'll go back in. But usually once I take that first couple of steps, then it's like, okay, I can do this. I'm willing. Yeah. And it's a training. I think it's a shifting and a training, and because I know how good I feel. I mean, it felt great. I was out this morning, dropped my car off, walked home. I'm going to go pick it up when we're done, and just to appreciate Mother Nature. She is so incredibly beautiful. Just so beautiful.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we have another comment from Jane. Hello, Jane. And she says, thanks for sharing your late stories. Yay. Yes, I'm glad that resonated with you. So yes, that was like, coming from the type 8 and demanding, that was a good relief that I needed. So yes, and talking about the journey, that's another thing I kind of came up with and use in my reframe your mindset action. is because I hear this a lot, because I think we have that pressure of the society and how we live. And I recognize those moments and people that I used to have quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, again, I didn't finish my Wednesday workout. I'm a failure. So,
Yeah.
okay, Julia, I'm a failure. I'm not going to do it.
That's right. That's right.
So-
It's just this. It's just this.
And then
Right
what
down.
I always say is like, no, you're not a failure.
Mhm.
You're just learning how to be successful. That is it. Love yourself anyway.
That's right. And that's right.
And then again, they just kind of pause and look at me. What? No, you're not a failure. It's just one of your journeys. You're learning how to be successful. You have your Friday coming up. Just plan that. So, and then it gives just a different perspective. And that's why I guess, we need coaches just to hear that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to hold you too long, but maybe you can tell us just
Nope. Sorry about that.
you find a little bit more where people can find you and how you like to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your coaching style or whatever you want to share so that people know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
And ladies, sorry, if you have any questions, please write them down. Go ahead.
My company, you can find me at yourjoyfulpath.com. I also have a new website coming out in the podcast, not website, but a podcast series that will be starting here either later today or tomorrow. So I'm really excited, called Living from the Inside Out. And so topics and interviews, we have a lot of fun guests as well. And that can be found also on my website or at livingfrominsideout.com/podcast. So that's where that one is. I do have a program. I've got a couple. I do work one-on-one with individuals. I've got small groups, but I'm going to be starting in May a program that is a year long, and it's designed to provide a cycle of how do we live the life that we dream from the inside out. So we look at techniques like, how do I become aware? How do I turn inside? What does that look like for me? So-and-so has this. Well, that's so-and-so's journey. Let's look at your journey. And everybody has their own process. Everybody has their own vision and dreams and strengths and desires. So we play with that. And we also play with how then do you create this life that you want? When you're looking at yourself and you don't have a dream and you're not quite sure, should I even have a dream? How many years do I have left? It's like, let go of that and embrace the vision that's resting there, waiting for you to pay attention to it and to believe in it. And so we work on that twice. We meet twice a month online and have a lot of fun and break into small groups. And so you can find that information also on my podcast, on my website as well. So
Good. And yes, if you can send me those links, I will include them here. So we would like a link for your podcast.
Thank you.
And for your website and for your program. That would be awesome. And we have a few more comments here. Thank you for sharing. Jane, I'm consistent with my morning walks. You go, yes. Jane. Planners and fitness. And it definitely helped throughout this past year. Oh, yes. My time always helps. Thanks to both of you. Well, thank you for being here and sharing, and keep up a good work. Yes. And we have Natalie here. And she says, this is a great message. Love to hear you, Rebecca Victor. Yes, thanks, Natalie. Thanks for being here. And Jane again. So I'm just like doing technology here. Jane, great to see you.
Thanks, Jane. Good to see you.
Yes, thank you for being here. Well, awesome. So yes, dreams, they are so important. Sometimes we don't even realize that. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a part of Mary, when she was leading a group, Dream Catalyst.
Mary Miller. Mm-hmm.
So this is like my favorite dream example. So we had probably about 20 ladies, and most of them were probably over 40. The mature ladies, wise ladies. And we had this one lady who was just graduated from college, and she had her first job, and she was in her late 20s. And part of our assignment was go home and write as many dreams as we can on one page. And when we came back and started to share our homework, pretty much all the women of those over 40 were like, oh, it was so hard. It was just so hard. I couldn't come up more than 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 10. And everybody was just like, oh, it was so hard. It just like shows you how much we really stopped dreaming like over 40. And then that lady, the younger lady, her turn comes up and she just looks at everyone and then she says, well, like, I don't know what's the big deal. I have 100. Everybody was like, what? There's no way. And then she started to like read hers. And I was sitting there and thinking, oh, like, and I could have edited that, and I could have edited that, and I want that too, and I want that too. Why didn't you do it? Well, because in our mind, we probably went, well, but I don't have money, but it's not going to happen, but this is it, but this is that. And she let it go.
Yeah.
And I left that meeting and I was thinking, wow, this is just like, it's kind of like empty when you don't dream or you don't even have that permission to get your creative juices going. So I'm glad that you have this program. And ladies, if you're listening now or later, you have to dream. It charges you up. So now will be even better to dream with a community of other people and just get inspired.
Oh yeah.
So yes, if we didn't have that community, I would have probably not even known that it's possible to write 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and the more the merrier, you know. It's like, let's have them. And then you get to pick and choose the one you want to work on right now. It's like, okay, what do I want to go for now? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's a huge, it charges you up, it empowers you, it gives you that joyful path to look towards. And that also becomes a part of your deeper why.
Right.
And probably also can help you get with that better relationship with yourself. Well, you matter and your dreams matter. Yeah,
that's right. And the thing is that your mind doesn't understand the difference between the actual experience and the imagination of the experience, especially the more that imagination includes feeling components to it. It just does not. They've discovered it doesn't know the difference. So if I'm dreaming for something and I take the time to really get clear about what that dream is, give it depth, give it color, give it feeling, you know, who am I with? What am I doing? What kinds of things are we engaged in? What are my favorite colors to wear? You know, like if you're looking at, you know, creating a healthy, strong body, you know, well, what does that look like? What kind of things am I doing? Not what will I be doing? You don't go from the will aspect. It's what am I doing? And as that person, you know, you got to wear her in order for her to come into being. You got to wear her. You got to put her on. You got to let her be real within your mind and your heart and your imagination before she becomes real in your physical form.
Yes, I love that. I got to wear her. That's it. I got to smell her. I got to feel her. Yes, ladies, that's it. That's where we have to start. Imagining, and now we know what it smells like, feels like.
Oh, yeah.
Who
am I hanging with? What am I doing?
Exactly. Yeah, the smile, the everything. So that's excellent. You got to wear her. I like it. And we have one more message here. Sandy, thank you for sharing. For me, I think a dream has to be big to be considered a dream. But as the song says, any little dream will do. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, you know what? I agree. I think, you know, I think there's all kinds of dreams, but when you're casting something that's grand, like a vision, like a life vision, that's that grand. And that's the thing that, you know, takes you out of where you are to allow you to become and move into something that has yet to be for you. So it's that grand vision that when I think of what Sandy shared is what I think of. It's like, that vision of what do I want to see in the next 3 years? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be about? How do I want to feel? You know, those are those, I call those a vision versus a dream. But I definitely see where Sandy's coming from, you know, because it's like, wow, if I'm dreaming, you know, wow, what do I want to become? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And we start out as children doing it, right? What's one of the very first faculties as children that we do? We imagine. We play in the realm of our imaginations. How many times as an adult have you looked at a child and they've got an imaginary friend, or all of a sudden they've got a sword and they're doing this, or all of a sudden they're dancing like they're a ballerina and they're, they're all kinds of things. And I think that's there because imagination is such a critical part of who we are. And, so I can't encourage people enough to play in that realm and to wear it, to put it on, to own it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes, and when you're talking about that little and big dreams, what came to mind, I'm like very passionate about working on feet because these are the feet, but there is a whole body stance, and if the feet don't do what they're supposed to do, we're missing those steps.
Right.
Or just like it's that one step at a time. It's one foot in front of the other, and that might be your little vision. But if you have one step and the other step, and they're moving in the right direction, so you're creating so many steps, and then the way your vision becomes more enhanced.
That's
your
right.
vision becomes more joyful. Your vision becomes even more than you expected when you started.
Right.
So it's just that one step in front of the other.
And I think that's where I think that you have that big overarching dream or vision, and then you've got the little pieces that are part of it. Those, those smaller dreams and taking those tiny steps. Because really, think about it. People say, well, how come I don't know the whole thing? How come I don't know what I need to do, for the next year and a half to move in this path or next, month? Well, part of it is because you may get to a point somewhere in the path that the way you thought you were going to go isn't the way you decide you want to go. Something else better comes up.
Detour time.
Huh?
Detour time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that there's something that we're learning that we didn't discover until we started on the path of the dream, and all of a sudden we discover it, and we're like, well, that's kind of cool. I'd like to check that out. And whereas if we had been dogged on that one path and that's the way we're going, all of a sudden we would have missed maybe the detour that is most inviting for us. Doesn't mean we're not going to be, but it might take us in a completely different direction.
Exactly. Yes. And like you said before, when you start to wear her and developing that relationship with her, so yes, your dreams might expand. So it's just you have to start somewhere and connecting again with you.
Yes.
And then let your dreams flow. And meanwhile, just enjoy your little steps in that joyful path direction.
Right. I mean, because it's like pause. And how many times have you walked in the park and you've paused just to pay attention to a flower, or there's a really cool web, spider web, but there's a, whatever, and you pause, and it's just one tiny little thing. Yeah. But boy, it's beautiful, and it creates some real appreciation and gratitude in you, and that's important.
Yes. Exactly. Well, I think I've had a great time, so I don't want to keep it any longer. So yes, please send me your links. I will include them. And ladies, Jane, Natalie, Sandy, Mary, thank you for joining us live. It's always more fun when we have some real audience.
Yes.
But
thanks for the comments.
Exactly. So replay still counts, and feel free to send your comments and questions. And thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here, for joining our community and also sharing your joyful path. I love it. So let's get on a joyful path and have less detours and more joy. Enjoy your walk.
Thank you, Jules. Thank you, everybody. It's been fun. I've always enjoyed connecting with you very much.
Me too.
And I appreciate what you're doing. I want you to know that. I appreciate how you're helping women to really embrace and just appreciate and be strong. And, because there's no reason that we have to lose our strength and suppleness.
Exactly.
None.
Well, yes. And it's strength that comes as a transition from inside out. So yes, when you feel strong in your body, you actually feel strong in your mind. Because I look at playing with weights at the gym as like training me for life. Because when you have that moment, it's like, well, yesterday I couldn't lift this weight. Today, it's like feels so effortless that it's a mind transformation. So
Yeah.
how can you bring this concept into life?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, I don't know, annoying person, so how can you turn this around? I can
Right.
lift this.
Well, I'm just going to lift this person up and out.
Exactly.
But one thing I noticed
I
that
always say lift and uplift.
yes, lift it. There is a friend of mine that what she does when she lifts is she uses affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she's lifting, she says an affirmation in time to her lift, whatever weights or whatever she's doing, squats or anything.
Yes.
She's got her affirmations that she is saying. So I just thought I'd pass that along too for people who are interested in affirmations, and they have worked very well for her. She's liked that.
Yes, yes. And my favorite one, squats. I always say ups and downs in life. We call them squats. You go down and you go up.
That's right. You got the down moments and you got the up, and sometimes they're a ride both ways.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to, pause in the middle and get stronger there before you go down.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Roller coaster needs a pause here.
Exactly.
Come into the station.
Yeah, slow down.
That's right.
So that's your affirmation. So if you ladies challenge with squatting or ups and downs in life, do more squats.
That's right. Squat those babies.
Squat those babies.
Yes, and squat and squeeze. That's right. My mom would just say, squat, come up and squeeze. I'm like, okay, Mom. Yeah. But thank you again.
Or if you connect with your feet, the squeezing part comes naturally.
Really? I love it. Yes, I'm looking forward.
I never use the words squeeze or release. If things are doing that's supposed to be done, so all of that needs to respond.
Very cool. Very cool.
It is.
Well, I look forward to introducing you to my crowd so they get the opportunity to discover all the neat teachings and the neat strategies to help them maintain mobility and strength and just, rock it. So.
Well, just like you said, it's important for women to show up strong instead of weak, like physically and mentally and spiritually. So, and with strength, yes, you have strong dreams.
And it's great because I'm thinking when you talked about that, the first thing I thought about, and I know we're probably over time, and that's okay, I hope, is what used to be when I think about women standing strong, women are starting to take up a much greater role in the world, and there's the need to step forward, if women are ready for that. But I think about how it was. Like I was looking at some shows, and it used to be that women were not encouraged to be quote unquote strong. Yeah. They were encouraged to be, this weakling, and they pass out at the most stupid stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the whole idea and attitude of a woman being strong was, she's being butch, or she's being, there's no sense of feminine strength.
Exactly.
And yet you still had a lot of women who were strong, who plowed the fields, who did the family, who did everything, who were very strong. And it's like, I wonder how that really played a role in how we as women perceive ourselves and exercise in our body today. I think that's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what comments.
I think it's a very good and cultural aspect as well. And still, just because I also work with those women of that kind of upbringing, so I still hear that a lot, that I just do light weights. Well, this is not how you get strong. So it's like, mechanics of that, biomechanics, progressive loading. So it's like, you're just wasting time to hold your pink weights. Like,
that's right.
I used to be like that because I was also from that upbringing, and my mom has never really done any kind of physical stuff, but she is a strong woman, but not physically. And right now it shows up in her a lot more because she's in the 80s. And I hear this now more in her because this is how she goes. If it's a gallon of milk, so it's like, it's too heavy to lift, I'm just going to pour in the little thing. Or when we are leaving the grocery store, I usually leave the cart there and I get all my bags and I walk in the car. And we always have to go through this fighting. But it's so heavy, you don't have to do it. I'm like, it's okay. Like, she still doesn't know that I lift a lot of weights. she'll probably, but I had to go over that barrier because I was afraid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now I know the two worlds, what it feels like to feel weak and like complain about it and asking my husband to open the jars and things like that.
Right.
Now I know what it feels like to feel strong.
That's right.
When I hear women come and say like, but I'm afraid to lift weights. Like, why are you afraid to feel weak?
Yes.
What's kind of overweight? Like for me, because I know both worlds.
Right.
But I also know the mechanics of the movement. So like it's important for me to be safe as much as I can, right?
Right.
So that's why I study a lot and I go into all the nitty-gritty stuff. So that's why I'm not your typical and average personal trainer. So I teach you, I educate you, I help you get in touch and be aware. And when I'm not there, you feel safe to do it.
Right.
Because it's important to me, because I come from that mentality. I'm scared. I'm scared to lift weight. No, like anything weights, lightweight is fine. Just like going to that cultural aspect. And that's what I kind of learned. Well, are you scared to be weak? That's right. Or are you scared to learn how to lift weights better, safer, and also help your bones to stay stronger? Because that's the age. And so far, there's lots of science showing that you cannot out Zumba, out cardio, or out yoga osteoporosis.
Right. Right.
You have to do resistance training.
Right.
Yeah, like they say, I'll just do cardio. It's not enough.
Cardio doesn't do it. No.
And cardio is going to be much more supported if you have stronger muscles. That's going to take the impact of the joints. And again, you cannot out Zumba osteoporosis.
Zumba doesn't help you lift something,
Yeah, exactly. Which is strong.
Yeah.
The jars.
And it's joints. It's joint strength too, because that's part of what a lot of that, the joint strength. And yeah.
So yeah, you got me off tangent here. So this is my piece. Okay. But it is cultural, and I'm glad you brought it up. And yes, I think it's important now to show other women that it's okay to be strong and it's okay to have physical strength, and because that's what's going to help you be more functional in life and also give you that sense of independence, because that's what we all want. How long can we prolong a sense of independence?
Right. And I think it also is those kinds of thoughts, the cultural things and the things that are part of what we've done that we're not really even cognizant of times that play a role. That's what I'm saying. If we can be compassionate with ourselves, because sometimes those are playing in the background and they're pretty loud, and we don't realize that that's what's playing and that's what's impacting the decision or impacting the action. So it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? What's happening here? What, and not from a sense of what's going wrong, but but what is trying to come forth for me to become aware of? What is trying to be birthed, that is coming here. So, so I think that's why compassion, especially in this realm, it's like, oh, it's not good for women to gain muscle. I mean, I've heard men say, well, I think they're ugly with the muscles and stuff. And it's just like, well, really, when you're in clothes, you really don't see it. And who cares what you think,
Yeah.
You've got your opinion. That's great. But it was still growing up at that time for women, I mean, it's all stemmed into, it wasn't until 1972 that women in the U.S. could have a credit card in their name.
Yeah.
So it's just like, wow. So anyway, it's little things that we're slowly releasing and letting go of as women and learning to embrace something greater for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I love that you're creating that opportunity for us to do that physically. Because like you said, when the body feels good, it's easy for the mind to move in a more positive state.
Yes, exactly. Well, like I always tell, and I come from yoga background. So I always tell people like, well, would you like to meditate in a body that feels good? Or would you like to meditate in that, good position and feel cranky and yucky and achy and pain? Like, where is your mind going to go?
Right.
You have to be really good at manipulating your mind to turn this off and send it to the other world to get the benefits of meditation.
Yep. And then you can also be active too. I'm an active meditator at times, and
going for walks. Yeah.
And like you're doing. Yeah. So I think that's wonderful because you're creating that opportunity, for women to enjoy it in ways that are best for them. Not everybody's going to want it the same way. So
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Well, so I guess we covered a lot. But all of it just encompasses a joyful path. So
yes.
we all want that joyful path for us, and we want that for all the other women. And it's always good to meet strong, able, and joyful women on our path.
Yes, most definitely. Nice to have met you on my path. So,
and thank you for being that woman on my path. Well, you have a good walk, and yes, we should do that again.
I look forward to it. Everyone, thank you so much for being here with Jules and myself. So I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ladies. And your homework, of course, spend at least 5 minutes and try to develop that self-compassion and self-love and see what comes. And let us know how it goes. Bye-bye.
Bye.